Hey everyone, today I'm back in Lost Ark to talk about the newly released Machinist class. Initially, because they said there wasn't going to be a power pass or a leveling event, I was planning on leveling it to tier 3 slowly by using the event materials that are around, and then I'd probably leave it at 1300 until an event rolled around. However, we did end up getting both a power pass and an express event, so I decided why not, let's get it to 1415. Now on my way to 1415, I actually ended up enjoying the class a fair bit more than I was expecting to like it. So seeing how my destroyer was going to be finishing his relic set on the week of the Machinist release, I decided to go a little further than 1415 and get Machinist up to 1445 and have it replace my destroyer for a few weeks in my main roster. And I don't regret that choice at all. Machinist has been a lot of fun for these past 2 weeks, and I'm looking forward to getting to play it a lot more in the future. So let's then talk about the class itself. If you've played Shadowhunter before, then Machinist will feel very similar to it, and that is because they just are. They both have a build that focuses around playing as the human character, and there is also one that is focused around their transformation. However, there are a few key differences between these two classes that still set them apart from one another. Artitinian Skill is the non-transformation build for Machinist. In this form you have access to 3 different skill types. You have the yellow normal skills that originate from the human, you have the blue drone skills that originate from, you guessed it, the drone, and then you have the purple joint skills, which are a combination attack between the human and the drone. Now the concept behind the gameplay is that you combo together the use of blue and yellow skills to rotate through your skills faster. And this is possible because both skill types have a different caster, so you can order your drone to do a lengthy attack, while you as the human still do your own attacks with the yellow skills without interrupting the drone. However, you do need to be wary when you use the purple skills, as those are combination skills, so when you use that, the drone will interrupt what it is doing to do the joint skill with your human. So yellow and blue skills you can use together, but when using a purple skill, you need to make sure that your drone has finished whatever it was doing, or you'll be losing out on damage, as it will cancel the animation that your drone is currently doing. But it's something that you'll get used to fairly quickly. Unlike Shadowhunter, the Artitinian skill engraving also doesn't lock you from transforming, so while you shouldn't be transforming all the time, you could still go into your Iron Man suit when there's a downtime mechanic where you won't be damaging the boss anyways, and you want some extra defenses, because summoning your suit will grant you a big shield and paralysis immunity. So it's great for those mechanics where you can't hit the boss and that are easy to take damage on. Some examples could be the 15 bar transformation to the Purple Wolf on Valtine Gate 1, or the Ghost transition on Valtine Gate 2, or something like the Showtime mechanic in Kakoseidon Gate 3. Those are all great mechanics to summon your suit for, where the extra defenses would be very useful. In terms of stats and engravings, there's also a lot of choice that you have. Spec isn't really going to do much for you, so you'll mainly be focusing on crit and swiftness, but how you divide these stats is up to you. You can go more heavy into crit, which then makes Keen Blunt a great engraving choice, and it also opens up the use of the Salvation Relic set. You can however also go higher into swiftness, which then makes Raid Captain and increased mass better, but then you also need the Hallucination Relic set to make up for the loss of crit. Or you can go middle down the road and build 50-50 crit swift, which is probably what I would end up going for if I were to build around this playstyle. It is the more expensive engraving though, as you will need gems and tripods for all of your skills, but it is more fun to play than I initially thought it was going to be, and if I already hadn't built the other spec, then I might have just played around with this one for a little while longer. Evolutionary Legacy is then the transformation build, and that is also the one that I ended up building around. Now the reason as to why this build is a lot cheaper than Artitinian Skill is because you only need 2 gems, one for damage and one for cooldown reduction, and you also realistically only need 2 or 3 tripods, the ones that increase your gauge generation. Everything else is bonus and also isn't going to affect your damage all that much. So the focus of this playstyle is to get into your Iron Man suit as fast as possible, and this is where it has some key differences with Shadowhunter. So the first thing is how specialization affects you. It increases the gauge gain for both classes, and it also increases the transformation damage for both, but that's where it ends for Machinist, and for Shadowhunter it does one extra thing, which is increase the duration of the transformation. However, the Legacy engraving does grant a 40% gauge regeneration after your transformation ends, and Shadowhunter starts at 0. So the big difference is that Shadowhunter has a longer transformation time, but you will also need more skills to get back to full gauge to transform again, and Machinist Machinist will have a shorter transformation duration, but you only need about 3 skills to get back into it. The transformation itself also functions a little bit differently. So as I mentioned before, you get a big shield when you transform, and if that shield were to break because you take too much damage, then you will also get knocked out of your transformation early, and if you get knocked out of your transformation early, you'll also recover less gauge. So you don't really want to use the shield to just face tank too many attacks, because if it breaks early, you might just lose out on a fair amount of damage, and you might also have a much harder time getting back into the suit, as you'll now need more skills to get your gauge ready. The gameplay itself is also fairly different from Shadowhunter. So you still have the same amount of skills, but each time that you use a skill, you will get 0.5 seconds cooldown reduction on all of the other skills. So even with 0 swiftness, you're going to feel very fast and you'll be spamming away at your skills. There's also 2 skills that have an enhanced version of them if they are used right after a dash. So that means either your spacebar or your Q skill, as that one also counts as a dash. The E skill will get a 20% damage boost and a new animation, so that one you'll always want to use after a dash, and the R skill gets a faster animation, and of course a faster animation means that you can use other skills faster, so that will also result in more DPS over time. So as you can see, it's more combo focused, I guess you could say, instead of just spamming away at whatever skill is ready. In terms of building it, you'll want to go full in on specialization and then some crit. You don't really need swiftness, as your class engraving will provide you with a lot of cooldown reduction, and the transformation itself will also grant you a 30% movement speed buff, so spec crit is the way to go. And then you'll also want the hallucination relic set to make up for not having that much in terms of crit, because your team synergy is an attack power buff, so you'll need to get crit from your crit stats, engravings, as well as your relic set. Some good engravings outside of the usual suspects like Grudge and Cursed Doll are, for example, Barricade because of the big shield that you get, Raid Captain because of the 30% movement speed that you get while transformed, and something like Adrenaline is really easy to maintain with the low cooldowns that you do have, and the extra crit is very welcome. So both builds offer a fairly fast gameplay, be it from the higher swiftness that you'll be running with Artitinian skill, or from the Legacy class engraving providing you cooldown reduction while transformed with the Evolutionary Legacy build. It's a very fun class to play, and if you were to choose to go the Legacy route, it's also a fairly cheap alt to build, as you only need 2 gems and 2 to 3 tripods to make it work, and you're still going to be dishing out a good amount of damage. So all around, pretty good and fun class to play, and I'll be keeping it in my main roster for a little while. And with that, I think I've said just about everything that I wanted to say. I want to thank you for watching, I want to thank my Patreons for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.